What gave you the strength to get past all the haters?
Okay, so the first time when I kind of realized I have something known as haters was back when I was 14 or 15, when I was heavily involved in, spreading the community, spreading the Cuban community back in India. So I used to make videos on Rubiks cubes. So I used to do unboxing and reviews, and I got cubes from different countries. So they would send me their samples, then I would review it for them, and then in turn I would get to keep the cubes. And I was getting some decent views and decent followers, but there was, there were some people who didn't like what I was doing. And for a very long time I had no clue that this was happening. And I had considered these people my friends, but one day what happened was someone came to me and they said that they wanted me to come to another Cuban competition as a chief guest, and my parents didn't know that I was doing all of this, so I couldn't go. And a few months later, someone else told me that it's good that I didn't go because some people were planning to mug me, so they were planning to steal my cubes and everything, and I couldn't understand. I thought this guy was joking, but it turns out that some specific group of people had actually created a Facebook group called Stark Haters because my name was TEJASVA Stark back then. And when I asked who these people were, they were people that I had respect for earlier, and I thought they were my friends. So when I, got to know about all of this, I was a bit hurt. And a lot of thoughts were going inside my head, and I didn't really know what to do. I thought of quitting, but soon as I realized that, there are so many more people who are appreciating what I'm doing, and that really helped me. And, I've talked about this before as well. Naruto and the rapper Eminem, Eminem songs really did give me a lot of strength when it comes to doing this. And there's someone I respect in India who used to genuinely support me from day one. He always said to me, if people throw stones at you, use those stones to build yourself a palace. And at that time I might have laughed at it, but now that you think about it, it really makes sense. And another thing, so this is one of the lyrics I wrote in my very new song that's coming out soon. It's, haters are really a blessing in disguise, because you use these, comments that these people are giving and, strengthen yourself, really.
Are you where you want to be in life?
As of now, I think where I should be right now, I think I am, because I'm in Imperial College London, and I think that's a very big step from where I come from. And some of you may know that my aim in life is really to, help humanity in the end. And so getting that kind of recognition, getting a good degree and doing what I love, yes, I think I am where I'm supposed to be right now.
I've noticed you have a necklace. Knowing it probably had a reason, what was the reason?
So I actually wear two necklaces. One is moti, which means white pearl, and in Hindu religion it's something that is, it kind of suppresses aggression. And this other one is something I wear because I think it looks really cool, but it also has it has a meaning behind, and there's a reason why I chose this, and this is basically an arrowhead. And I think this just kind of reminds me that when life gives you shit, it's just trying to make you stronger. And it comes from the arrow theorem, which is, for an arrow to move forward, it needs to be pulled back first. So, the elastic strain energy turns into kinetic energy. So when life is giving you shit, what you can do is point it in the right direction. So once it lets go, you are flying towards where you want to go.
So someone met you in a Cuban comp and you said you wanted to change the world. then they laughed, but then they thought about it, and they thought that it could be reality. So what exactly do you want to change?
Yeah, so this is kind of relating back to, I think, the first question that was asked, which was, you know, I'm very open about what I want to do in life. So when people ask me, well, what do you want to do? I'm going to very straightforwardly say I want to change the world. And, you know, a lot of the times people just go like, but there have been, you know, situations where people get to know me a bit more and they try to understand what I really meant by that. So what I really want to change is, you know, I want to give people what, say, like Eminem gave to me, or what Naruto gave to me. It's all about, like, you know, what I want to show people is that it doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is where you want to go and how hard you're trying to do that. Because on the way, you start getting a lot of attention. And some of it is bad, some of it is really good. But I basically want to become like the symbol that people can look up to and say, well, if he can do it, so can I.
So, what's the one thing about music that you love?
Music. So, there are loads of things, but I guess one of the things is it can really bring back a lot of good and bad memories. It generates a lot of feelings. You know, for example, if you smell a similar scent, it kind of brings back memories. Same for food, sights, and everything. And music does that for me a lot. So, for example, so I constantly try to put myself in other people's shoes to see where they're going, or, like, you know, what they've experienced, what they've gone through. And when you listen to someone's music, I think they paint a picture of their experiences. They put their visions into words, and I think that's very impressive. So recently I was listening to Wave by G-Eazy. It's not a very famous song by him, but it's a very good song. And I remember the first time I listened to that song was when I was in Mumbai, and I was going through some tough times back then, and I remember just walking down the road, and I was listening to that song, and I could just really relate. And so recently, like maybe last week, I was listening to it again, and I could literally just close my eyes and reimagine the whole scenario that happened. And I think what's really cool about that is you can always see where you've come from and how far you've come. And I think that really helps to appreciate things a lot more.
How did you develop the point of view you have for life? I understand that you have been through a lot, and over the years you have developed your ideas, but I still wonder what specific events and people have helped you transform into the person you are today?
Right, so I think whoever you meet has a slight impact on you, but there are definitely people who have a much larger one than others, and there are ones that do it consciously. So I think the first one that I can remember, obviously, again, it's Naruto and Eminem. And then, you know, going through all that struggle, then I'd say the main turning point of my life was when I emailed that CEO, and I got an internship, after which I was sent to UK on a sponsorship. So that phase, and then also while I was at Charterhouse, it was a completely different environment. I was basically in an alien world, according to some of my teachers, in a good way. But now they see me and they say, you know, well, you've come a long way. And I think that was one big step. And now I'm at Imperial. You know, it's not completely different, but there are many, many things that aren't the same, and things that you have to adapt. And Imperial is, you know, like I said, it's one of the top 10 universities in the world. There's a lot of, you know, competitive things that are going on. So, you know, you constantly try to learn from these things, and yeah.
Talking about Imperial, some people from your own sort of workspace have asked, what gave you the motivation to want to do so much for humanity, and when are you releasing your album?
So, humanity. I guess I've been through a lot of situations where there were people right next to me who could have, you know, helped me go through what I was going through. But I guess they either couldn't relate or, you know, just didn't want to do anything because there was nothing there for them. And, you know, I when I was going through all of that, I said, you know, one day when I'm going to get out of this, I want to make sure no one else feels this way. So that's what I want to do with, you know, my status in life. And about my album, you have to wait a little bit for that one. But I can give you one thing. It's most probably going to be called Ikigai, which means purpose in Japanese, briefly put. But if you look it up on Google, you'll find this really interesting graph of purpose, passion, and I think it has a lot of meaning as to what I'm trying to say in my music. So yeah.
So about rapping and like what got you into rap and what do you want to be remembered by?
So like I said before, you know, going through struggles and everything, and like a lot of the people that have helped me go through all my struggles either don't exist in real life, I mean as in like they're movie characters or anime characters, or they're people that I've not met, majority of them. So again, I mention this again and again and again. It's, like I said, I wanted to give people what Eminem gave to me. Like he gave me a lot of strength with his voice, and his lyricism. I think that's how I really got into it. And also, for me, writing lyrics is very therapeutic. It kind of, you know, people paint pictures to show what's going on in their head or to show what they're feeling. Some people dance, some people write poems, I write lyrics, and there are loads of things that I've written that no one has ever seen. So these kind of things are very therapeutic because if something's just in your head, I think there are loads of things that you have to keep thinking about. But once you write it down, you can temporarily forget about it, come back to it. When you read it, go like, oh yeah, I remember going through this. And again, it's one of those things where you just look back and say, wow, I've actually come a long way. Or if not, then wow, at least I'm going in that direction, you know? And again, it just really adds, you can start appreciating things a bit more as well.
So this is a cheeky one, but if you have an ex, like, do you have an ex, which I'm guessing you do, and if so, which song would you dedicate to her?
I don't think there's any song I would dedicate to them as such, but you'll have to wait for that one. Yeah.
So when did you first thought of getting into aeronautics? Like what made up your mind to go for it? Because as you left India when you were like 10th or 11th class,
yeah.
Wasn't it difficult for you to adjust into such different circumstances?
Aeronautics. Yeah, actually, I've talked about this to a couple of people, and I love telling the story. Actually, it's a very cool one, I think. You know, as kids, we all love superheroes, and when we grow up, people around you, including family, friends, society, they basically say, well, why don't you focus on something more realistic, you know? But I've always been that weird kid that doesn't like to do what everyone else is doing. And, you know, I think I was 8 or 9 when Iron Man came out, and I was like, well, you know, this seems possible, because this is basically an engineer who built a plane, but it's not a plane, it's something that fits to his body. And I asked my dad, I remember, I was in the car, I was like, what kind of person makes airplanes? And he said, aeronautical engineer. And I said, right, that's what I want to do in life. And at that point, that word aeronautical was a very fancy word for me. Like, even today, when someone asks you, what are you doing? You're like, I do aeronautical engineering. They go like, yeah, that's really cool. So that's how I got into it, but you know, like so my dad used to also fly flight simulators and stuff like that. So that really got me. And then I guess when I really started looking at planes, I go like, how does this thing even get off the ground? And things got really interesting because someone who doesn't know, basic physics or something, to them it'll be like it's magic. And I think understanding that magic is really cool. It's a bit difficult, but the more difficult it is, and then you get past it, and then you go like, well, if I can do this, I can do a lot of things. And yeah, about the second question, yeah, I had just finished my 10th grade, and I came to Charterhouse, and it had a completely different syllabus and way of doing things compared to India. So I think I mentioned this earlier as well. There were loads of things that I had no clue about, very basic things, and initially, I'm very open about these things, but initially I didn't really have anyone to talk to. So for like a very long time I was a bit alone, but again, if someone asked me what I wanted to do in life, I would tell them, and then they would laugh. And then a year later, they'd look at it after what I've done, and they would give me a little bit more respect. And in that way, it's really cool because you can, like, it comes back to the very first question: how do you deal with these sort of people? Is that you use their words and you prove them wrong. And it doesn't have to be instantly. It can happen over time, but that shouldn't be your main aim. It's just like a bonus thing that you start getting respect from these people, and I think that feeling is really good. So yeah, there were many difficult situations, but you learn from them, you become stronger. I think it's all about learning from these kind of events. Yeah.
Cool. So, what is your biggest fear in life?
That's a difficult one. I think it's to do with, humanity destroying itself. How do I elaborate on that? I mean, I've thought about this many times, but I've never been able to put it in words, simply because it's a bit of a complicated topic. Yeah, I would just say humanity trying to destroy itself, really, in many ways.
So, my last question for today is going to be, out of all the people that follow you on all social medias and everything, what would you tell them for people that are probably going through something similar to what you've been through, or that have your same aims or same dreams?
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
Keep going, really. I think it's very important for you to visualize your goals. I've met a lot of people who, say they want to do something in life, and then, they face a difficult situation and then they stop. But I think the reason for that is because they forget why they're working so hard. They forget why they need to overcome this barrier. And I think one of the ways where you can do that is visualizing your goals. And if you can, paint a picture. It can, not a literal picture, but put up something on your wall. Like if one day you want to go do skydiving or something, print a picture out, put it on your wall, so you're constantly reminded of why you want to work so hard. I mean, this is just a small example, but if you want to buy a Ferrari and a big house like me, put it up on your wall. Like if you see my wall at my home, you'll see a lot of these pictures out here and there, and again, it's just reminding you. For example, when I was in Charterhouse and I really wanted to get into Imperial, I mean, for other people it might have been easy, but for me it wasn't. And what I did was I put up a picture of Imperial's building and its logo right on top of my bed. So every day when I would wake up, the first thing I would see is a picture of Imperial, and that would remind me why I want to work hard. So it's stuff like this. And also, when you're doing all these things, there will be a lot of people who will come to you and say, don't do it like this, or this is not how things work. Well, you can listen to them, but you don't have to fall into peer pressure. I mean, do your own thing. If you're planning to do something that no one has ever done before, there's going to be no path for you. You have to create it yourself. And you're going to constantly fight to pave that path. And then people who want to do it as well will now start following you. And I think that's it's a very magical feeling, really. And when people, you know, come to you and tell you, you know, that they've been able to do things because you've been inspiring them, I think that's very, very special.